So hi guys, Rahul this side on behalf of Revsportz, and this is a very special interview, and you can see on the other end Ashley Westwood. The man is not new to Indian football. Uh, First, he took the charge of Bengaluru FC and had an incredible stint with the club. But then again with ATK, then Round Glass Punjab, and then he spent time with Hong Kong and Afghanistan national team, and now he's again back in India, took charge of Kerala Blasters. This is going to be a very insightful conversation. But first, I will start with his playing career, and then I will come to his stint with Bangalore FC in India, and then now he recently took charge of Kerala Blasters. So we'll discuss in details about all these things. Uh, Hi Ashley, welcome to Rev Sports. First thing, you have been part of Manchester United Academy. Then the senior team you have played under a legendary manager like Alex Ferguson. So tell us a bit about that experience in Manchester United Academy, then the senior team, then under Alex Ferguson and all.
No, just many years ago, of course, football changes a little bit, but I think what remains the same in football is the desire, the work ethic, and the will to win. And something that Sir Alex Ferguson and obviously Manchester United as a whole, as a club, as an academy, as a professional, teaches you exactly that. How to be a professional, how to win. Given the education of life messages of how to be dedicated, how to work hard, how to be punctual, many lessons. And the best at doing that was Sir Alex Ferguson, as in by a leader, and the way that he worked and the way that he was always first at the training ground and last to leave. The will to win, his staff, the preparation, all the desire, all those fundamental skills that you need as a player to stand yourself in good stead to hopefully last your career as a player, which is something I'm proud of doing. I retired on my own accord, which was at 35 when I stepped into my first, assistant manager's job.
One lesson from him on one quality of him that you will carry with you throughout your career, or you have replicated that with in your coaching career so far. I mean, one memory that will remember forever in your life.
Yeah, I just think for me, something I could always remember is him always being at the training ground. Obviously the facilities are a little bit different now with the environment they portray, but if you was to arrive, he would be there, and if you was to leave, he'd still be there. So just his work ethic, like I said, his desire to win, but certainly the way that he led, by example, was for me something that would always stick in my mind. I think, it's been documented many times. He would always be on the training ground, no matter what. He would always be present, and he worked as hard as anybody at the club. So that's something I've always tried to keep with me in my coaching journey.
That's brilliant. And now we'll discuss about your stint in India. The first club you took charge of in India is obviously Bangalore FC. And one of the special thing about that chapter is, I think for the first time you brought professionalism in Indian football. If someone to bring professionalism, GPS tracker, nutrition, diet, all these things in the Indian club, that is you with Bangalore FC. So tell us a bit about that chapter a bit.
Yeah, I just think at the time, 2013, it was quite normal in English clubs. Of course, finances are better at the top in England. Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two are all the leagues that I was privy to as a professional. If I think back to my first professional contract, which was at Manchester United, they were ahead of everybody, of course, doing the nutrition and the food. But when I left Manchester United at the age of 20 and I went to Crewe Alexandra, there wasn't any of that. And by the time I left my last club, it was kind of standard, no matter where you were in the football pyramid. As long as you were professional, you was privileged to, nutritional information and food, whether that's breakfast and lunch, and obviously pre-match meals, and of course the modernisation and the technology that started to come into football. So it was something that I was well rounded at, I was well educated at, and I knew that India wasn't in that position of, it wasn't standard. There was no heart rate monitors, there was no GPS, there was no club with the environment of arriving for breakfast, training, lunch, go to the gym, go back to some apartments. I've chefs at the apartments, and everything you need to give you a chance to become more professional and obviously to become more athletic as an athlete. So for me, the vision was very clear, to make a difference and an impact of something that we can control quick and easily would be all the information and the facilities to give athletes the best chance to sort their bodies out, with the right food, with the right information, with gym techniques, with warm-ups, warm downs. I mean, I can't remember exactly who it was, but even something as simple as an activation band. We were doing activation in our warm-ups before our warm-up, and I remember somebody coming from the AIFF. In fact, I do remember his name now. It was a technical director from India that came to check and just look at our training. He was like, "What's that? What they're doing there?" And I was like, "Well, that's an activation band." And he was like, "Oh, I've not seen them before." And I was thinking, that's pretty standard in Europe, but of course things like this weren't. So your injury prevention, your prehab, all the stuff that we introduced, which makes a difference. And certainly, I know once we won the league in our first season, that people were then trying to find out how, why, and one of the big reasons was the professionalism, the diet, the training techniques, the prehab, the gym, the sessions, the running, whatever you want. People were starting to find out, and India started to change quickly. And then obviously the introduction of the ISL and more foreign coaches coming, budgets getting bigger, and then all of a sudden, it's pretty standard nowadays if you watch the top league in India. I know this year is a little bit different because ISL's had a stop-start kind of situation, but when I've watched the ISL going back over the last 4 years, if you like, it's very rare you see players cramp. In my day, I knew we'd win games in the last 20 minutes because every team would have 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 players, dropping to the ground, dying with cramp. So we knew if we got the fitness right, we'd have a big advantage, and that's something that happened.
Actually, that was going to be my second question. What are the changes you have noticed so far in the ISL? Because you have been, you came to India in 2013 and now 2026, you were again back in India taking charge of Kerala Blasters. Almost has been, I think, a couple of weeks with the club. So what are the changes, in your own eyes that you have noticed? Because so many years you have been in Indian football. After Bangalore, you have been part of Punjab, then ATK. I know then you took charge of Afghanistan, but then Hong Kong, but you have been closely following Indian football, if I'm not wrong. So what are the changes since 2013 and now in 2026? What are the changes you have noticed so far?
No, the standard of player is 100% improved. Even if I'm looking at Kerala Blasters here, today we had 20 outfield players. And in a 20 outfield squad, normally you'd be carrying 5 or 6 that weren't up to the standard. There's more Indian players at a better standard collectively these days. It's hard to judge it for me on the ISL that I know now because, we know that the pre-seasons have been a little bit difficult. The league was starting, it wasn't, it got delayed, and then everyone's only playing each other once and people have had a layoff. But I've watched it, of course, over the last, years, 5 or 6 years, if you like, and the Indian standard and fitness has definitely improved. Whether that's now it's a little bit of a lull, a bit of a plateau, they need to continue. One thing I will say is, you have many potential Indians. I've seen many good Indian players, and then I've seen them also go out of football quite quickly. The big contracts. There's not hundreds of real seasoned professionals here. Some of them don't get nurtured correctly. There is many, of course, seasoned professionals. You look at Gurpreet, Rahul BK, Sunil Chetri, Roland Borges. I'll be missing loads off. That have been in around India since I first came and are still around now. And they're a testament to proper professionals. But I've also seen players that have done very, very well with huge potential, get big contracts, and then slip out of the ISL because maybe too much too soon. So it still has a lot of work to do. I'm not, the messiah of Indian football by any chance. There's people in India that know a lot more about Indian football than me, so I won't judge and say you need to do this, you need to do that. The basis is here now, the potential's here. Of course, it's been a tricky season this season for everyone connected and concerned. But certainly over the last, 10 years when ISL's been around, there's been big improvements, and it's a case of building on that now and not going backwards, which is very important for India.
Okay, okay. Now we'll go to your, international state. I mean, I'm very intrigued to know about your coaching in Afghanistan, because that was a bit difficult decision for you, because that time the situation wasn't good in Afghanistan. Even your family was, against your decision, but you took that job. I think even the British embassy in Afghanistan also, I think that time they closed their operation, but still you decided to take that job. So tell us a bit about that journey.
Yeah, to be honest, first taste of national team football. I'd been in and around national team offers before, not got one or turned one or two down, and always it's something that crops up with national team is, you can't take that job because you've not got national team experience, which was something that always grated on me. If Jose Mourinho becomes available, then you're not going to turn him down because he's not got national team experience. You might take him. So sometimes people use that as an excuse. So I wanted to get that out of my CV, that no national team experience. So that was one thing that played into the decision making. And two, I've always been, pretty fearless and sometimes stupid, if you like. But for me, nothing to lose. Going there, coach a different style of coaching, where at club football you have a lot of time, you have a lot of control, you have a lot of things you can control, whether that's the diet, the fitness, the periodization of a season long planning. With national team, most of the time you only get 8 days, which is the national team window, 5 windows of 8 days. So you have to reassess and think about exactly what you can affect quickly to get your game model across. So it teaches you a different side to coaching. Not You can't cram every single bit of detail into one meeting. You have to be wise with your time. You have to be wise with your training model, because you've got all different types of players coming from all different clubs with all different types of fitness. National teams normally start on a Monday. You have players that play on a Sunday, a Saturday, a Friday. People traveling from 20 hours away, 3 hours away. There's such a big logistical planning to be done in national team that really helps you in your club life. So it was just nice to experience that, and nice to see it from different eyes and add something different to the CV and make you think. And for me, the more experiences you get at different levels, in different countries, at different cultures, and of course your continual learning and your networking and your speaking and visiting clubs all around the world, you start to become a bit more rounded as a coach, and not just worked in one place in one time. So something I've enjoyed, and something that definitely helps you in your coaching journey.
Interesting, and let me also mention to all of our viewers that you did an incredible job with the Afghanistan team, because I think under your supervision, they I think held Qatar as well, to a goalless draw in the FIFA World Cup, and also I think for the first time Afghanistan defeated India, in India. So obviously that's a massive achievement. And then you took charge of Hong Kong, and there there were several controversy. I think that's why you parted ways with the Hong Kong national team, because. We were relying a bit with the naturalized players and all. But my question is a bit separate, because that is also very related to India as well. Because recently, India, we have got Ryan Williams, I think our second naturalized player after Arata Izumi. So my question is that, do you think for most of the countries like India, Hong Kong, Bangladesh, or Afghanistan, in Asia, do you think relying on naturalized player or OCI or PIO the only way for instant success now?
No, I mean, when you look at India, there's a dynamic that I'm not really qualified to talk about. The naturalization is a huge political decision that is way above anything I understand or
Yeah,
privy to know what that would mean. So I've been asked the question a load of times, and I never comment on it. I've seen Indian managers comment on it before, and I've seen them go. So for me, improving quality of players, of course, gives you a better chance. But when you start talking about political issues, that for me is a non-starter. All I know at Hong Kong is it's tough to be naturalised there. They have to make 7 years in the country, or region, should we say, not country. Obviously, Hong Kong, China now it is. they have to stay for 7 years and then apply for their passport. So, you're looking at almost 8 years. Some countries do it in 5 years, some do it through parents. The naturalized ones that I had have done their time in Hong Kong and converted the passports, and they were available to me. So, you use the best players regardless of wherever they're from. And that was something that was very clear to me in Hong Kong. It didn't matter if you're from Hong Kong, it didn't matter where your ancestors were from. It doesn't matter if you had a Hong Kong passport and you was available and you were the best player, I would select you. And of course, that can lead to many other kind of issues. But for me, all I do know is that I did a very good job in Hong Kong. We won 7 straight games, which has never been done in Hong Kong before. The record was 6. We won 10 games from 20, only lost 5. So a 50% win ratio, playing against good sides. The teams we lost against were like Japan, South Korea, Iraq, China, Liechtenstein. So very good sides. And of course, the last one, Singapore, who are also a very good side in themselves. Many of their players play in the Thai Premier League. So to win 50% of your games with Hong Kong, predominantly a team ranked around 150, 160 in the world is a huge achievement and something that we're really proud of. For me, it was time to leave there, to try and do something else. I've been there 18 months, nearly 2 years. We missed out at the last minute to the Asia Cup, and for me now it's about going to find something else and keep challenging yourself every day and not going backwards. I like to move forward in my career, and that's something the decision was to leave Hong Kong.
Okay. Bengaluru FC, Hong Kong, Afghanistan, or Punjab FC, wherever you say these four, national team or club, wherever you took charge, you totally transformed them into a competitive side. But now you are in charge of Kerala Blasters, and I think in Kerala Blasters, a manager, coach like you, I think was the need of an hour. So now you are in charge, and already you have won the first game in playing 2 games. I think it came against Bengaluru FC. So how confident are you? How are you looking forward in the coming months and all?
No, I think I'm always confident in improving a side because I've done that wherever I've been. Statistically, we're up on where they were. We're very unlucky against Delhi not to get a result at least. I thought we deserved at least a draw. We totally dominated that second half statistically as well. And that's all we're looking to do. We're looking to improve. I'm not too concerned about the results. Of course, I want to win. I always want to win at everything I do. But I just, when I spoke to the management team here, I promised them that I would improve the side, and that's something so far we have done. We got 5 games now really quickly, 3 games in 10 days, which is very tough. That's including the 2 games before. So we actually play 3 games in 7 days, actually, I think, which is tough for a team that's not had a solid pre-season. And to considering how low the confidence was when we came in, looking at the Bangalore game and looking at the structure starting to improve and the team shape and people understanding what we need and what we want, it stands us in good stead to get some more results. But if we don't, it doesn't concern me as long as we improve every single day. But I'm pretty sure if we keep playing and we keep applying ourselves with the attitude and the desire that we're looking like we are, with the team spirit we've added and the bit of camaraderie and a bit of hard work, we're definitely in a good position to get a few more results. But like I said, it's more about the performances and the improvement is what we're trying to guarantee.
After the defeat against Delhi, under your coaching, the victory against Bangalore, do you think will serve as a crucial win for the team? It will, actually boost the confidence of the team, and also that victory, there was a red card for Bangalore FC. Your team deserved that victory and also much needed victory for Kerala Blasters going forward.
Yeah, it was a big win. Again, before that game, if we hadn't have won it, it didn't concern me either because I know we've got 5 home games coming. I know that, we'll get better and better and better the more coaching sessions we get. You find out more about the players. You start to, to pick the best players in the best positions. It's a process. It's the reason why normally, again, in Europe, England for sure, you have 6 or 7 pre-season friendlies to make sure your team's ready for the start of the season. And that's, identifying the right personnel in the right places. I only had 7 games when I got here to finish the season. So it's not a lot of time and we are improving. But the win was obviously great. It's great for the club. It's great for the fans. Obviously, we know about the rivalry, the South Indian rivalry. Kerala Blasters have never won in Kent either. I think if someone sent me something, it was 2,992 days or something. I think someone sent before, it's took for them to win there. They've always seen it as a little bit of a jinx ground. So, that's off our backs now. So it's great for the fans. It gives them some confidence. Hopefully they'll come out in numbers now and watch us because we are trying. We are working very, very hard. I can assure you that, a lot harder than we've worked in the past. We're putting every hour in possible, whether that's match analysis, whether it's preparation, whether it's watching our games, their games, whether it's lads in the gym session, whether it's eating, whether it's tactical sessions on the laptop with the players, or whether it's on the training ground. We're working very hard because we haven't got long before the end of the season. But certainly the win has helped. It's helped the lads' spirit. I personally didn't need the win, but I think the lads did and the fans did. So it was a great win, and I was hoping it was going to come from Delhi. But football works in funny ways, and I think if you'd asked the fans win the first one and don't win the second one, they would have said no, let's lose to Delhi and beat Bangalore. So it was pleasing to see.
Exactly, and going forward this season, if we see, I think it's impossible for Kerala Busters to fight for the silverware. But the only thing possible is to avoid the relegation. But for a coach like you, obviously you want to give something to the fans. So are you looking forward to get a long rope with the team and all? I mean, this season you want to utilize it as to setting the tone for the next season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking to improve and get some results. I'd like to. I know we lost our first one. We've got 5 left. We're not getting ahead of ourselves. We've got lots and lots of work to do because it was so low before we came in. But I'd like to see where we'd be, on a 7-game season from when I come in at the end of the 7 games. If we started the league from the day I came in, let's see how far we can climb up that ladder. If the league was like 1 day old, that's a personal target of mine. But again, regards the future, I only spoke to the club about the short term, which was to the end of the season. And I'm not concerned about anything else, really. You've got lots of work to do until then. Old cliche, we take every game as it comes. And we don't look too far ahead because I've been involved in football enough to know when you think you're flying, football has a nasty habit of kicking you in the backside and sending you back down to zero if you're not careful and you're not humble and you don't plan correctly. So we're not looking too far. We're just taking every game as it comes.
Well said, coach. My last question, your message for the fans, because fans have been, against the club recently because of the result and on. We have seen deep in attendance, Kerala, whenever they play, we used to see full packed stand, but recently we have seen deep in attendance and all. So your message for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, your anger or your upset because, the season's not been going as well, or, seasons haven't been given, the silverware that you'd like to think with the fan following we have. So I understand that, of course. What I also understand and know for a fact is that, no club is anything without fans. The players feel it. The players, want the support. Of course, they have to work hard to deserve the support. And sometimes there's things that we're not in control of. I know that the management are working hard to try and explain to the fans what is happening and, just support us. This is a very turbulent season and things will get better, but it won't get better on our own. I spoke to the players today to say, listen, I think we've got 25 players here. We need everybody. If you've not played for me so far, don't think you're not important because you are. Don't start getting angry with each other and kicking each other in training because we need every single person. And that's part of a football club. We need everybody, whether that's management, whether that's players, whether that's coaches, whether it's fans. We need to be together. We need to go forward, and the players need your support. We need to work through things collectively. Ask questions,
Yes.
do what you want. But the players do feel, the fans' gripe. So, just bear that in mind sometimes and try and stick with the players as much as you can because I can guarantee you, we'll put on some good performances from now to the end of the season.
Okay, so that's it, coach. I think so far you have done that with Bangalore FC, you have done that with Afghanistan, you have done that with Hong Kong, and I think the best thing about you is that you took the charge of Kerala Blasters in toughest of times. In such a precarious situation, I think it takes a lot of courage, and you have done that. Hopefully, you'll bring back the good times for Kerala Blasters as well. Thanks a lot, coach, for giving us time, and even in between such a tight schedule, because Kerala have got, I think, 3 games, within just 7 or 8 days. But still, you gave us time. Thanks a lot. Thanks again for that, and best wishes for the remaining game of this ISL. Thank you, coach.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.